Namaste, everybody. Mr. Brown here again for our second part of Act 3, Scene 1. For this scene, we're going to be looking at the bit where Tybalt arrives. Okay, so it's where Tybalt, Mercutio, and others enter. Okay, so if you're using one of our normal books, it's page 93. If not, you'll have to search for it in that PDF PowerPoint that Miss Jolliffe has put up for you. So we're going to be looking in this section about how Mercutio and Benvolio act as opposites for their intentions and what they do. So they juxtapose each other as characters because one wants peace, one wants to fight in this instance. Okay, so we're going to be exploring how Mercutio is confrontational and acts as a provoker in Act 3, Scene 1. And our key terms we're going to be looking at are antithesis, juxtaposition, foreshadowing, and the idea of an antagonist. Okay, so that's sort of what we will be exploring. So just as a reminder then, let's look at the three key characters. This all shifted over slightly. Let me move the screen for you, if it will let me. Whoop, gone the wrong way. Me and technology do not like each other. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be looking at these three characters in particular. So we've got Benvolio, on the right hand side we've got Tybalt in the middle. Do you know what? I can't even do my left and right. Benvolio on the left, Tybalt in the middle, and Mercutio on the right. And each three of these characters are written for a purpose. What we've got to remember is each character is a construct by Shakespeare. He's chosen to create them and chosen them to react and act in a certain way. So we've already looked at in the previous PowerPoint how Benvolio acts as his peacekeeper, tries to hold the peace. We should know that Tybalt is antagonist through and through. Whenever we meet Tybalt, he wants to fight, he is angry, he's aggressive. So right in that opening scene, I hate all Hells, I hate all Montagues. Okay, so he wants to fight them. When Romeo rocks up at the Capulet party, it's Tybalt that wants to fight him. And what we've got to remember is Tybalt hasn't seen Romeo since the Capulet party and is now wanting revenge still. Okay, so he's really antagonistic because he really wants to fight Romeo and hasn't had his wish yet. So in this scene, he arrives looking for Romeo to have that fight that he hasn't yet been able to have. And then our third character we're focusing on is Mercutio, because Mercutio acts as this sort of witty character who plays on words. He does lots of euphemisms. He's quite sexual with what he says, so acts as a bit of a humour device for the audience, brings a bit of fun. But at the same point, he's also really hot-headed and volatile, as his name Mercutio suggests. Okay, so he is willing to fight at any point. He is willing to be quite extreme. So he goes from one to the other, being a party goer, being fun, to being hot-headed and quite aggressive and angry. And he acts as a juxtaposition to Romeo, really, because Romeo and Mercutio often contradict each other with ideas, especially to do with dreams and things like that. But what we could say is Mercutio is a catalyst. Now, if you science, you should know that catalyst is something that causes a reaction, starts a reaction. And Mercutio, by far, is the most catalytic, if that's a word, character in Romeo and Juliet. He starts the downfall in Act 3, Scene 1, and yeah, he's the one that also gets into the party earlier. So he does act as this catalyst throughout. So this is the part of the text that we are looking at. I don't know why each slide keeps shifting over slightly. There we go, to the bit you can see. So this is the short sequence that we will just read through now together, just so you know what's going on. I'll try and differentiate between each character with some horrific accents if it comes out, but who knows, okay? So Benvolio starts the scene by saying, by my head, here comes the Capulets, and by my heel, I care not. Follow me close, for I will speak to them. Gentlemen, good even, a word with one of you. And but one word with one of us. Couple it with something. Make it a word and a blow. You shall find me apt enough to that, sir, and you will give me occasion. Oh, could you not take some occasion without giving? Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo. Consort? What, dost thou make us minstrels, and thou make minstrels of us? Look to hear nothing but discords. Here's my fiddlestick, here that shall make you dance. Zounds, consort. We talk here in the public haunt of men, either withdraw unto some private place, or reason coldly of your grievances, or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us. Men's eyes were made to look, and let them gaze. I will not budge for no man's pleasure eye. Okay, so that's the section that we are looking at. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to find that in your text, you can follow through. And what we're going to, not literally follow through, that was a dangerous thing to say with the lack of toilet roll, but I mean you can follow the text yourself. So we're going to dive into certain quotes. So at the start of this section, Benvolio says, "By my head, here come the Capulets." Okay, so he again acting as that peacekeeper that we were talking about. He's warning them, saying, "Here they come, the Capulets are on the way. We need to be sensible about this." Okay, if you think about the word "head" there, by my head, he's suggesting be sensible, use your head, think logically about this. Okay, so he's appealing to reason. Okay, but Mercutio does the complete opposite. Okay, so Mercutio, instead of abiding by what Benvolio says, becomes confrontational. Okay, almost quite childish. By my heel, I care not. So he claims he does not care in the slightest that the Capulets are on the way. And it's quite interesting. We've got some wordplay here. Mercutio is playing off of what Benvolio said, and we've got this idea of the contrast between head and heel. So the antithesis. So the antithesis is when things are opposite to each other. Okay, so they're very different, and you play them off against each other. A lot of Shakespearean text uses antithesis quite regularly, and in this instance, we've got head and heel because they come from the two opposite ends of the body. Okay, so Benvolio is trying to use his head and logic, but then Mercutio turns that round to be something insulting. By my heel, the heel is the bit at the bottom of his shoe. Okay, so putting them down as low as he possibly can, like he'd crush them under his feet, is the idea there. Okay, so it's quite an insult to the Capulets by saying that. By my heel, I care not. Okay, so then we've got at a later point, he says, okay, if we go back to the text, make it a word and a blow. So if we look at the text here, okay, so Tybalt arrives, and actually for once, Tybalt's quite polite and non-confrontational, because he goes up to Benvolio Mercutio and asks, could I have a word with one of you? So he's actually looking to speak to Romeo. So he's asking for a polite word, and even calls them gentlemen at this stage. So it's all very nice and polite. But Mercutio doesn't abide by this. Mercutio throws it back in his face. But one word with one of us, couple it with something, make it a word and a blow. So what he is literally saying is, if we have a conversation, you also have to have a fight with us. Okay, so the blow, he's trying to incite an argument. He's trying to annoy them so that they bite back and they fight him. Okay, so that's what he's saying. You can speak with us if you fight with us. Okay, so that's what he is trying to say. And if you look at the bottom, I've put some words in green there, which we could use to describe Mercutio at this point. So he's antagonising them. Okay, so it's this idea, if you've got a wasp's nest and you poke it with a stick, that's exactly what Mercutio is doing to the Capulets, to Tybalt in particular. Poking at them, trying to get this response. So he's trying to provoke Tybalt, and he's being very confrontational at this point. Okay, if we contrast that with Benvolio, who right at the start of Act 3, Scene 1, even says to Mercutio, let's retire, okay, let's go away, let's not get into a fight. Mercutio is doing the exact opposite of this, is he? Okay, the juxtaposing idea of he wants to fight, but Benvolio wants to retire and not get into a fight. Okay, so looking back at this then, so make it a word and a blow. Then if we drop down just a little bit, we find Tybalt says, Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo. So we get the idea that Tybalt, by consortist, means you associate with Romeo. You know Romeo. You speak with Romeo. So what Tybalt's actually trying to do is find out where Romeo is, so he can get in contact with him. Get in contact, I mean fight him. But the idea there, he is associating Mercutio with Romeo. Now, Mercutio takes insult to this and says, consort, what dost thou make us minstrels? Okay, so what we've got here, this quote here, consort, he's changed it around and flipped the meaning of it. Okay, so obviously Tybalt is saying, you know Romeo, want to speak to it, but consort, he's saying it makes him lower in status. That if you consort with somebody, it's also a word for being a musician, basically, and in a part of a band or a minstrel. If you look to the bottom, I put a minstrel as a medieval European entertainer. Originally described any type of entertainer, such as a musician, juggler, acrobat, singer, or fool, but then by the 16th century it meant a sort of entertainer who played music and songs. So Mercutio is flipping the word consort by associate to flipping it to being a musician, a minstrel, which is the other definition of it, and takes offence to this because he's saying, so you think that Romeo controls me, that I'm Romeo's musician, that I'm associated with him in that front, but at a lower level than him. Now, what we've got to remember is Mercutio is actually the prince's cousin, so he's quite high in status in comparison to some of the others. So to be referred to as Romeo's associate, he has taken offence, which is we've got this question mark here, and shows the use of two question marks shows that he doesn't like that comment. However, we know Tybalt didn't mean it this way. Mercutio has chosen to take the words he's using and twist them and flip them to make it into an argument. Okay, so what does that make us minstrels? So it's referring to him being a minstrel, a jester, or a musician to Romeo, so lower status. Obviously something that has quite offended him by this point. Again, looking for an argument. So he then goes on to say, here's my fiddlestick, here's that shall make you dance. Okay, so a fiddlestick does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a stick that you use to play the fiddle, so play a musical instrument with, but also in this instance, he's referring to his sword and saying, this is my fiddlestick, I will make you dance. So this idea that he will fight, because you often call a sword fight a dance, you choreograph a sword fight, it's like a routine almost, so it's like a dance. Therefore he's saying, you call me a minstrel, fine, not a problem, in that case we're going to fight, basically. I'll be your musician, here's my stick, here's what we're going to fight with, okay? So again, he's taken offence with that statement and is now being argumentative and saying he will fight with him. But then good old Benvolio tries to stop this once again. Okay, that's what his role is in this scene. And he says, we talk here in the public haunt of men, either withdraw unto some private place, or reason coldly of your grievances, or else depart. Here all eyes gaze on us. Now, if you look, we've got the words withdraw, reason, depart. Okay, he's demonstrating that he's desperately trying to get them to put their swords down. He's trying to get them to reason over what their issues are, or if they do have to fight, go somewhere else and do it out of the way of the public. So he's trying to be rational, clear-headed with them, okay? But what we've also got, and we can see here, is he uses the word public and private. So again, we've got that antithesis that I was talking about earlier with the two contrasting ideas, and shows us that Benvolio is very, very aware that being in public might cause them problems and they should be doing this in private away from what's going on. So it adds the tension to it, the idea of public and private. It also shows his hyper sense of reality of the situation. Because if you remember back to Act 1, the prince sets out a new law, doesn't he? And that law is, if you ever disturb our streets again, your lives shall pay the forfeit of peace. So what Benvolio is saying is, if we fight in public, we are going to get in trouble. Therefore, we need to fight private if we're going to, so we don't disturb the streets. And it all links back to what Shakespeare told us earlier in the play, that they would die if they get caught fighting. So you can see this use of antithesis here, and we can see the use of vocab that Benvolio is using to try and convince them not to fight in the streets. Okay, so the final bit we just look at here is Mercutio's last line, which in this section, which is, I will not budge for no man's pleasure I. So despite Benvolio trying his best to try and get him away, despite the fact Tybalt wasn't even looking for a fight with Mercutio, Mercutio is being very stubborn and confrontational and antagonistic. Look at the use of I twice. He's made it quite selfish, that it's all about him now. I will not budge for no man's pleasure, I. And him saying no man's, so the idea that no one can move him, nothing's going to change his mind. He wants a fight and he is ready for it, okay? So we get the impression that Mercutio is being quite aggressive, quite antagonistic, and quite childish almost, actually, in his approach here to this, to Tybalt. So, having looked through that, I hope that made sense. There's some tasks for you to complete. Pick whichever level you are at, your core, your challenge, or your super challenge. In general, cores for level 3s and 4s or lower, around that sort of area. Challenge should be your 5s and 6s, and super challenge is anything above a level 6, please. So, core. How is Mercutio confrontational in this scene? So how is it clear that he wants to fight? So pick out some quotes from that sequence. They're there for you, ready to use, and try to explain to us how he's confrontational. Watch the video back if you're not sure. Challenge, how do the characters of Mercutio and Benvolio contrast in the scene? So I want you to look at the two different characters and how they are presented differently to us and why that might be. And then the super challenge, how does Mercutio manipulate what other people say to antagonize them? Okay, so what is he doing with his wordplay in particular, that he's using words that people say against them to cause a fight, and also to consider why might Shakespeare have juxtaposed Mercutio with Benvolio to aid this. Okay, so what's the role of Benvolio? How does it show Mercutio as more antagonistic? So there's the task I'd like you to do. Again, answer the correct one, whichever one's good for you, and then you can send us the answers if you want to, or store them all as a collection. You should spend about 10 to 15 minutes on this answer. Try and really develop your paragraph. Remember to pee. Good luck, and I will speak to you all in our next video once I learn how to actually stop the video playing. Here we go, it's disappearing. There's one box that tells me how to shut it down, and it doesn't seem to like me today. Bear with, oh, we don't want that, that's the other bit. Just trying to find the stop button, but it's not happening. Right, speak to you all soon.